Mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? We like them mixed!
Oh, you gotta love it. What is up, my friends? Hello there. Hope you're all out there just having a wonderful day. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. And Doc Rivers isn't the new Phoenix Suns head coach. The Friday vibes are just immaculate. I love it. My name is Shaheen Al-Shatti. And this is the UFC Vegas 74 preview show here on MMA Fighting. We appreciate y'all for joining us. Let's hit today's crew. You already know we have the Prince of Positivity. He's the king of the North. He is the last holdout for the Ultimate Fighter, and he's just having a great week because everyone's scurrying back to his side on that. He is Alexander K. Lee. And, of course, the Legal Eagle. Mouth from the South. My guy, Jed K.Meshew, also joining us.
I like Mouth from the South. I like that one. We can do that. We can do that one.
It came to me, and it felt right. It felt right. Also, of course, you already know. You already heard him. The best producer in the business with the best intro in the business. He is the undefeated AKC Leydon, man in the boards. So let's dig into it, fellas. UFC Vegas 74. We are right back at the apex. 13 fights. Kaikara France, Amir Albazi at the top. And AK, I'm going to just throw this to you because this is your wheelhouse. You are known to rate a card or two. You are known to throw up a poll or two. I need both from you right now. What are we looking at?
The poll is out. The poll is out. I'll say what the poll is actually after I give my opinion first. I'm grading the card on paper. I mean, listen, if Maynard's out there, they haven't put on a bad show in years. So, I got to be careful. So I got to be careful what I say here. This company just 44 to 46 cards a year and just always delivering. Banger after banger after banger. Doesn't matter. UFC Apex, pay-per-view, UFC Topeka. It doesn't matter where they are. They're always delivering. So, but I actually do kind of like this card. It certainly has taken a few late hits. We're going to see some debutants that we did not expect to see, and maybe there'll be pleasant surprises. So I'm just going to go a 8.0 degree of difficulty for UFC Vegas 74. 8.0. I think I like that there's some veterans on there. I actually think there's a lot of potential for finishes. And if that's how people gauge what an entertaining card is, which again, I don't always think that's the be all end all, but if people are looking for finishes, I think they'll be satisfied there. And banger of a main event. So there you go. That takes it up to an 8.0 easily.
8.0. So 80%, that's a nice B minus. You like to see.
Oh, no, remember, this means it can only be an 8.0 out of 8.0. Remember, this is the scale. It can only reach an 8. The scale is now out of 8. Yeah. So, and I just added to a poll asking people, how do they grade this card on paper? And so far, C leading the way, 48%.
All right. Jed, you had a really great stat earlier this week about the flyweights and sort of their position within this company and maybe the opportunity that we are seeing for the first time in a long time. So could you go ahead and repeat that for us? What it's almost like history in the making here this weekend in a weird way. Not really, but kind of.
This is the first non-title flyweight main event since August 5th of 2017. Also, Shaheen, way to not give me any notice that you were going to ask me that. Fortunately, I did have that pulled up in front. So I was about to be like, I know where I can find that. So got it. August 5th, 2017. That is, we talked about it on No Bets Board. I should have done an even more extensive list. Do you know the number of things that have happened in that amount of time? Shaheen, you had a child. By the way,
that's true.
You had a child before the last time. Your child could be
I've gotten married and
had it a week after. Got married and had a child. 2 World Cups. You know what had happened just like 2-3 months prior, the last time flyweights main evented in a non-title fight? Patrick Mahomes had just gotten drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a lifetime ago. I'm trying to think who was like the heavy. I think Daniel Cormier might have still been light heavyweight champion the last time flyweights headlined in a non-title capacity. Like,
give me the
date
again. Give me the date again,
August 5th, 2017. I really think that's Daniel Cormier is still the light heavyweight champion there, but I'm going to look this up.
I want to know what Jim Miller.
Georgia sports had not won a championship
ever.
The Braves in the 90s at that point.
Yeah,
I want to know
we were in the deep darks then.
August 2017, Andrei Arlovsky was on a 5-fight losing streak. By the way, this is and we all thought,
which one? Which one? He's had 3 of them.
He was on his. I mean, the most recent one. He didn't have. Hey, listen. The other one was 3 fights and a no contest. He had lost to Stipe, Overeem, Barnett, Ngannou, and Marcin Tybura before the last non-title flyweight main event. Jim Miller, I'm trying to get my dates right here. Jim Miller had just fought Dustin Poirier and Anthony Pettis and just lost to them. So that's where they were. 2 gentlemen who are on this card. That's where they were the last time there was a flyweight, non-title flyweight main event.
Atlanta United, speaking of Atlanta sports teams, had just been founded. Shaheen.
That's a soccer team, right?
It's our MLS team, who were the first Atlanta team to win a championship. They did it in 2018.
They broke the curse.
They did. They broke the seal, and then Georgia football may never lose again. So it's pretty cool.
Hard to argue with that. I mean, let's dive into this in a second, because we're going to talk about the fight plenty. But like, that's a pretty incredible stat, right? 6 years, basically. Why do you think this is? Like, why is that something that is a reality in our world in 2023 in the UFC, where we have cards seemingly every week that are, not great, a lot of really mediocre main events? Why did it take this long for the flyweights to actually get their shine?
Because Dana White hates them. That's the only really plausible answer to me. I mean, he did actively try to kill this division out of spite for Demetrius Johnson, and not even like good spite. DJ didn't even wrong him. He just like didn't totally put up with the UFC nonsense. And Dana was like, I'm going to trade you and I'm going to burn this division to the ground. It's just because they're small, because the little guys, and like AK, they're not here for the short kings apparently. And so that's just what happened, I guess. I don't know. Ask AK as a short king hater. AK is probably in a better position to explain the UFC's thought process here.
I'll be realistic. I mean, the flyweights, at least when early on, they didn't draw. They weren't giving a lot of opportunities to. And I hated that the UFC just seemed to sort of like accept that they were just like, oh, well, this is our new division, and they're smaller guys, and they're not heavyweights. The finishing rate wasn't what it was. I'm pretty sure. I think like people go like, oh, flyweights never finish fights, and it's like, now that's certainly not the case. I mean, now we have this. Listen, flyweight unders, it swept the nation. If people think flyweights don't finish fights anymore, I don't know what version of mixed martial arts you're watching, but flyweights finish as much as anybody, and often quite quickly, as quickly as the name would suggest. So, I listen. It's just this weird mentality. Look how they organize their cards. They've always had it, and this might be a boxing thing too, but they've always had it. Let's say there's 2 title fights. It doesn't matter who the bigger star is, unless we're talking about McGregor. But usually it's like no matter what, the heavier weight goes up top. Then the co-main event will be the lighter weight title fight. And it's just silly. It's like, why does it have to be so simple? Like, I think we're pretty beyond. I like to think we're beyond where like heavyweights are the absolute kings of combat sports, because that's nearly not. Listen, we're in the post Pacquiao, post Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, just name so many. I mean, go back, Sugar Ray Leonard. Like, there's so many great stars who are not heavyweights, but UFC just, and maybe MMA in general, has just pushed for so long that heavyweights are reliable people to put in the main event. They're going to get you a finish, which again we've seen a lot of times has not happened. We've seen some pretty ugly heavyweight fights in recent years, more so than flyweights. Certainly more so than flyweights, I would say. So it's just a perception thing. It's a perception thing that. I think there's inherent bias that, maybe needs to be overcome. And I think the UFC gave up a long time ago on trying to overcome that bias. Because again, they don't have to, right? As we know, the UFC doesn't have to try any harder than they already are. And they're making money hand over fist. So the flyweights are the kind of the victims of that.
Throwing the heavyweights under the bus there. You're telling me you wouldn't rather see Sergey Spivak in a main event than Kai Kara France? You're crazy. You're crazy.
Come on. Okay. How is Andrei Arlovsky, Dontel Mays not in the main card? What's going on here? That's not in the ring. It's ridiculous.
I'm sorry. Former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovsky. You say his full name, sir.
Correct.
The man that Jed Meshew once wrote a 1,000-word feature arguing for as the GOAT. the heavyweight GOAT of all time. We'll get into all of this, but first, let's start with
Spot
this
the
main event.
lie.
It was a convincing case. So of AK, of these, I would say right now there's 3 newer faces in this 125-pound division who have sort of made their way into contention. And, you know, this division is quickly reloading, but these 3 are the 3 that really stick out to me is Mokaev, Kopp, and Albazi. Where do you think Albazi ranks in terms of highest ceiling amongst sort of that trio that we have coming up the ranks right now to maybe displace the guys that have been here for a bit?
Great question. I still like. I think if we're talking ceiling, I still, even though I get it, Mokaev, we've had a bit of a reality check with him. Like, still super talented guy. Obviously, one of the best wrestlers in flyweight. That's going to take you a long way. You know, we haven't quite got that. Last fight was pretty touch and go. He got hugely challenged, and for me, that's both a good and a bad thing. Like, you want to see a prospect like him get challenged. At the same time, did he get exposed? I hate this word, but did he get exposed in some ways? So, but Mokaev, I'm still putting him at the top. Still a believer he's going to be a future flyweight champion. I never really bought into like the 2 division thing. Everyone's like, oh, he could win in 2 divisions, and that may happen, but I still see him as a flyweight champion. I don't know about another weight class. So Mokaev is up there, and I'll put Albazi firmly second. Like, I think Albazi. People know I haven't been like super on the Cap train. He's unquestionably maybe one of the 5 most exciting flyweights, which is a huge compliment when considering what we said. Like, flyweight is like one of the best divisions, I think, to watch. So Cap is certainly exciting. I think there's just some inconsistencies. I think his style isn't always conducive to necessarily contending, because I don't know how he is at like a lot. At some point, you're going to have to win like hard fought decisions, and he's kind of like, he wants to always get that perfect shot, get that knockout. I'm talking about Kopp, and it's not always going to be there. So Albazi for me is like kind of right in that sweet spot of a guy who certainly, of course, can finish fights, you know, very well rounded. But also I know I have a lot of confidence he can grind wins out too. But he is a finisher as well. I see him as someone who I think could win high level decisions in the future. I don't quite have that faith in Kopp. So I'll go Mokaev, I'll go Albazi. Win or lose on Saturday, I'll go Albazi, and then I'll go Kopp third.
Hey, Shaheen, I can't hear you.
How about now?
Sure can.
Love my internet. It's so clutch. We pay for the most expensive internet Cox provides, and always comes through in the clutch for me.
Everyone loves
Jed,
Cox.
would you agree with what AK just said there, that putting Amir second on that list? You look at what he's done sort of in the UFC so far, 4-0, 3 finishes, rolling through a lot of this opposition. Would you say he's second amongst that trio that we're talking about at 125, or you put him somewhere else?
Wait, who's the third name in the trio?
Kopp, Mokaev, and him.
Oh, Kopp. Sorry. No, I think he's third. I think he's just third in the trio. But they're real close. He's probably proved the most insofar as he's on a really good run. I mean, 1 career loss. Kopp has shown some pretty clear weaknesses at points, even though I think his ceiling is arguably the highest. Mokaev is just so very raw. He's so young. He's only 22 or whatever. But I think the ceilings on both Kopp and Mokaev are higher than Albazi, but I think he's sort of a little further along the road. And this is his opportunity, right? Like, he comes out here and he shows out against former interim title challenger. Well, frankly, if he wins this fight, he is probably just next in line for the winner of the upcoming flyweight championship. And that sucks for Brandon Royval, but I think that might be more sellable. So I think he's further along, but I don't like his chances this weekend. We'll get into that later. And mostly, I think he just has a lower ceiling than some of the other up-and-coming dudes in this weight class.
That's interesting. I'm surprised to hear you put him third, although I mean, Kopp is obviously, there's a lot of potential in Kopp, but I feel like I agree with AK in this one. I feel
Kopp's
like
fun,
Albazi
man.
is second for me. Kopp is fun. Kopp is just pure
Kopp's
fun.
way more fun.
If you're going to ask me to pick same thing, right?
No, I'm going to pick the fun guy 9 times out of 10, unless it's very clear. Unless somebody's very clearly a good fun police, and Amir Albazi is not that. Give me the fun dude anytime.
Well, you look on the other side of this. I mean, Kai Kara France, he's the A side, right? He's in a weird place in this division. I feel like he's almost become somewhat of a forgotten figure here at 125 because he's been away for so long, but also just the way that the last one played out, right? Like, The man was 10 minutes away from beating Brandon Moreno. He was winning that fight before that wicked body kick at I think 277. Where do you feel like Kai Kara-France sort of fits in this division right now? Do you feel like he's almost being slept on because of that last performance, Jed?
No, because I don't know where he fits in this division. He's a really interesting guy. Because if you look at his resume, I mean, he has a ton of losses, like, right? So let's just start there. This is not a guy who's an all-world talent, unbelievable fighter. He has just been steadily improving, getting better time in and time out. But there's a very real argument that he is simply on a good run right now, but that he has a clear limitation. If you look at his resume in the last few years, particularly his UFC run, he just lost to the best dudes he's fought. When he's fought the top tier guys, he just lost, and that's it. Like, his wins are over Cody Garbrandt. That win does not mean what it, maybe would have meant several years back. Askar Askarov is his best win, but also your mileage varies a little bit just because of who Askarov is as a fighter. And when he's fought, Brandon Royval, Brandon Moreno, he's lost. Maybe it's just that, though. Maybe he just can't beat guys named Brandon, and because Amir Albazi is not named Brandon, he's going to have a good weekend. But I don't really know how to rate him, because it's hard for me to say if he's ascending, if he's put all the pieces together and he's got it going now, or if he just has some sort of natural limitations that are going to cap him from ever being an elite fighter. I could see either being the case, frankly. I could see like, oh, he's turned it over. It's just that Brandon Moreno is the best flyweight in the world, so he couldn't get it done. That's why I'm interested in this fight. I think this is a really good opportunity against a guy who's at the very least game in Albazi, and who is good for KKF to kind of show me who he is in this landscape, in this weight class.
I wonder how easy it is to change your nickname with the UFC. Like, do you have to give them some sort of notice, like weeks or months notice? Because it would have been the ultimate troll if Albazi, he has a nickname, he's the Prince. But if just for this one night, he was like, I'm Amir Brandon Albazi. Like, he went with Brandon just to mess with them, just to get in KKF's head. And then, because
he should have changed his name legally to Brandon.
Oh, just legally. I think that's a lot more paperwork. That's probably harder.
It's like $50 in paperwork. Commit.
How much time?
Do you want to be a champion or not?
I would just have loved if who's going to be in there on Saturday? Joe Martinez,
Brandon Albazi,
Amir Brandon Albazi, and then you just see Kai Kara-France start twitching like, oh no, not again. That would have been great. But I think Amir has enough confidence in his own abilities that he doesn't need such gamesmanship.
Fun fact: almost named my son Amir. Very close. Very close.
And then was Brandon also
Brandon next on the list?
Yeah. Brandon was not on the list, unfortunately. Brandon wasn't on the list. Although, had I known this fun fact, he might have been in consideration, just in case he ever comes up against a guy named Kai Kara-France. It's interesting hearing your sort of walking through the evolution of Kai Kara-France, right, Jed? Because in my mind, there are a lot of parallels between Kai and the champ, Brandon Moreno, in that, AK, I mean, this is your wheelhouse, the Ultimate Fighter. Like, you're living large right now with the Ultimate Fighter. You look back at that 2016 season with the DJ season of all the champs. A lot of the top contenders right now at Flyweight are literally still coming from that season, right? Like, Brandon Moreno was number 16 on that season. Kai Kara-France was on that. He was number 9. Like a lot of the lower ranked guys from that season are now thriving, and we've seen them sort of grow and evolve and become who they are in the UFC. And that is always such a tough thing, right? Not coming to the UFC as a finished product, but coming to the UFC as such a young up-and-comer who is really still figuring themselves out and then working through that while fighting the best in the world. Where do you feel like Kai fits in this division? Do you agree with sort of where Jed put him?
I agree with the assessment that he is not, like, from a talent standpoint, he's not probably one of the 5 most talented guys at Flyweight. I mean, you maybe not even 10. Again, this division, I see a lot of people in the comments calling out Tetsuro Taira. That kid is a hell of a talent, and certainly needs to be part of the discussion. So I would put him, as far as just raw talent, I would put him above.
I'd put Taira over too.
Yeah. But listen, he's a grinder, super hardworking guy, veteran. I mean, listen, this is like 30-something pro fights. He's been in there, and he's only 30 years old, but he's pretty old in fight years. But I think in this sense, I think he's at that right level of experience and age. It's not come to the point where like his fight age is a detriment. I think he's like, right, this is his prime. This is quite literally his prime. It is unfortunate that he just hasn't been able to get over the hump against some of the best guys. I do weigh the Askarov win pretty heavily. I thought that was his best performance. I thought it was great that they put him, that it got him that rematch with Moreno for the interim title. So I like he's there, he's upper tier, but it doesn't surprise me that it does feel like he's lost in the shuffle. At the same time, I do think there's a path for him to someday get like an actual undisputed title shot. It'll probably be down the road. Brandon Moreno will have to be out of the picture. I think it's a lot to ask to give him a third fight with Brandon Moreno, barring like a string of first round KO. Like he just runs to Albazi, runs to his next two opponents. Brandon Moreno needs an opponent. Maybe you have a chance there, but it's a hard trilogy to sell, especially since we just saw Brandon Moreno fight the same guy 4 times. Now do you want to see him fight this other guy 3 times? And again, the division keeps getting, we just named a bunch of people who could leapfrog over Kai Kara-France. Brandon might not have any shortage of challengers. So I love his chances of sticking around the UFC for a long time and being a top 10 guy for a long time. But a lot has to fall in the right place for KKF to get another title opportunity.
AK, earlier in this convo, Jed sort of snuck in there that he thinks this might be, that the winner of this may fight for a title in his next fight. Or at least that Albazi, it seemed like you indicated.
Yeah,
if he
not confident Kai Kara-France fights for a title, but if Albazi, he's at least got a shot at it.
Do you agree with that, AK? Do you think that's up for grabs here?
Yeah, for Albazi, certainly. Like I said, listen, Brandon Moreno, I'm really optimistic. He's the kind of guy we'll see him log something like 5 title defenses over the next couple of years. Hopefully more. And listen, hopefully more. But I think 5. I think if we got 5 Brandon Moreno title fights over the next 5 years, people will be pretty happy. And that's assuming, of course, that he even wins all those. Again, there is just so many great challengers coming up. I love the Pantoja fight. I've said that I feel like Brandon Royval could sneak in there. I've said that 2023 is his year, as you would put it. I wouldn't say it any other way. So I think Brandon Royval can sneak in there. But otherwise, again, I like Albazi's chances. Yeah, I like Albazi's chances of within the next year. I'll go even short. Within the next year, 10 months, 8 months, finding a way. If it either has to be like a finish of Kai Kara-France or a really convincing decision. If he just wins a decision, one that we're like, okay, he clearly won, but it's, it's lacking in highlights, it's lacking in pace, it's lacking, like, it's just not making a statement. You're just going to see Albazi highlighting Apex cards, until like next summer. But if he gets a finish, if it's like he gets a really strong 50-45, 49-46 win over a guy like Kai Kara-France, then he's right up there. Then I think he's one fight. I don't think he gets a title fight, but one fight away.
For context, the UFC's rankings currently have Kai Kara-France as number 3 behind Figgy, who unclear what exactly his future in this weight class is, and Pantoja, who's about to fight for the belt. So if he wins, probably going to move to number 3. And it's not a guarantee if he wins like a back and forth decision, but my thought process here is, one, if he does get a big finish, yes, but even if he doesn't, if he just comes out and can be somewhat interesting or do the thing on the mic, he is the guy who won in a flyweight headliner, the first in 6 years. He's on the longest win streak in the division. He'll be the number 3 guy, and the 1 and 2 guys are fighting or whatever. So yeah, like Brandon Royval would make a lot of sense, and I'm not going to be mad if Brandon Royval gets it, but Brandon Royval has also lost to both dudes who are about to fight for the title fairly recently. So if he wins, I think he's got a shot at it, but do the thing, Amir Albazi. If you don't get knocked out, do the thing.
This is a cold world if Brandon Royval gets skipped over. He campaigned to be the backup fighter. He's trying to do the thing that apparently is what you do now to get this title shot, is be the backup fighter. And you're saying he could get skipped over maybe.
It is a cold world, but he lost to both dudes in the title fight, like within the last 2 years. It's not that long ago. So like I'd love to watch him fight. It would be fun as hell, but there's a very good argument for him to not get it if Albazi gets this win.
So Jed, earlier it seemed like you indicated that you don't particularly like Amir's chances here. Is that correct? Where are you going with this? How you break this down?
I don't. I'm going with Kai Kara-France. But there's not like a ton of confidence in it because I'm a little unsure how good Car-France is. I'm choosing to believe that Kai Car-France has leveled up, and the guy we've seen the last 4 or 5 times out, that's the guy who he is. He has sort of elevated his game to this place, and if the place is, I was very competitive with Brandon Moreno, who I believe is the best flyweight in the world, before ultimately getting finished. And prior to that, I've just been kind of pantsing everybody I've been facing. Then that's a really good place, and that's a level I've never seen Amir Albazi compete at. It's not to say he can't get there. Maybe he's out there, and we just haven't seen him kind of get tested in that way because he's looked very good mostly. But I largely think Car-France is just going to be able to keep this on the feet, and Albazi is not as creative or as dangerous a striker, and so it's KKF all day for me.
What about you, AK? Where are you leaning?
I'm going the other way. I think when this matchup was first made, I definitely was leaning towards Kai Car-France. Now I'm going Albazi. I've liked a lot of what I've seen from him. I do think, I don't know, like Jed said, I don't know if he'll be able to like consistently find ways to take the fight to the ground if that's his game plan. But I do think we could see like a back take on the feet. He could find ways working against in the clinch, working against the fence. Got a ways to slow Car-France down and stifle him. So I like that possibility. So I'm going with Albazi. I'm going with what I said. He needs to make a statement to really put himself in that title picture. And I'm going to say he's going to finish Kai Car-France submission round late in round 2. Flyweight under.
Wow. Early.
Under. I'm going under. Got to do it.
You love to see it.
Under 2.5.
For me,
love to see it.
I just wonder if this is too much too soon for Amir Albazi. Because this is someone, like, you look at the 4 fights that he's had in the UFC, this is leaps and magnitudes of a jump in terms of level of competition, right? Like who is the best guy he has fought so far in the UFC? Between the 4, would you say?
Oh, I have to look at who he's...
Zhalgas
Zhalgas. Yeah. Zhalgas.
Like
yeah.
the jump from him to KKF is massive in my mind, and that's a tough one. That's a tough bridge for me to cross. I think Albazi will get there at some point in his career. I'm very high on his potential, but this feels like a lot. This feels like a really big jump, and I just think KKF, this is a moment. This is the moment for him, right? Like, he cannot lose 2 in a row and really drop down the vision that far if he wants to continue what he's trying to do. So I go out KKF as well. I think it'll be a decision, but I'm looking forward to this one, man. I'm glad the flyweights are finally getting some shine here. It took 6 years, but we're finally getting it going. So let's move on, fellas. There's not really a co-main event on this card. Alex Caceres versus Daniel Pineda. It's fine. I would say that's.
Would you say that's a penultimate fight?
Beat you to
definition
it.
of definition for sure.
No, so in that respect, Jed, I'll throw it to you. What's the second best fight on this card?
It's the fight that should be the co-main event, and I know you guys are going to say I'm insane.
Oh Lord,
and
don't do it.
I don't really care.
Don't do it,
dude. He's a former champion. Why are we just acting like Andre Arlovski isn't a former heavyweight champion and one of the most accomplished fighters in the sport? Like for the last 4 years, we've just sort of left him here. And I know that the fights aren't fun. Like, I'm not here to tell you we're going to have a good time with it, but give this man his due and proper.
It is bizarre.
Not fun is like an understatement, though.
Disagree. I have so much fun.
And then there's just.
Does it have something to do with heavyweight overs, Jed?
Sure does. It's the best.
Not everyone is betting heavyweight overs. All right, they don't know the thrill.
You should be.
Okay, this is true.
It's the most electric bet in sports.
It is strange that the UFC and the matchmakers, schedule makers, I guess you say, that their heavyweight fetish does not extend to Andre Arlovski. Like, this feels like why would this not be on the main card? Like, I think I was kind of
very pointed. Before, it is. Can you imagine any other UFC heavyweight champion just being this guy for years, buried in the prelims time?
Not even that. If this were like Parker Porter versus Dontel Mays, which again an incredible matchup. I should have used another example. That's at least.
You better not slander Parker Porter.
Okay, if this were, I was gonna say that a guy who Dontel Mays had already fought. Guys, give me if this were Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Dontel Mays. this would be like the penultimate fight of the night. Like this would be easily be on the main card. But for some reason, because it's Arlovsky, like he's the only heavyweight. They're like, nope, shove him down.
Also,
no main
also
card for this guy.
like, I don't know or even necessarily believe it's going to happen. He's 44. Literally at any point in time, it could be the last fight of his career, and he's just buried in the prelims. A future Hall of Famer. Like I don't think there's any question this man gets in the Hall of Fame. A former heavyweight champion, and just like, I'm not saying he needs to fight other people. Like I think this is right. Like we don't have to do the legends thing for him. He can just fight these guys, and that's okay. But just at least let the man be on the main card. That's all I'm saying. Also, AK, I'd like to preemptively throw out not no pick. I'd like Amir Albazi versus Parker Porter, win or lose tonight or tomorrow night.
AA versus PP. I like it.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking my language. I'm into that. Let's do that. Can we just do that instead of this? Can we?
Yeah.
Put that in?
No. Because I feel good about this one hitting the over. I really like my chances to cash that heavyweight over.
I told you, I can't believe the over is only like plus 195 or plus. It should be like, or sorry, minus 195. It should be like minus like 2,000. Like this is not. No one's getting finished in this fight.
It's the best. It's gonna
There's
be
almost
the best.
no way.
I'm gonna have so much fun. Just clinching, just two big dudes clinching against the fence for 12 minutes.
Really selling it. Can't wait. Can't wait for it. AK, second best fight of the card. What do you think?
Oh, that's not a good reaction.
That was a
right?
fun sound.
Listen, the card got a show. I want to talk about Jim Miller. I mean, it would have been Jim Miller, Jared Gordon. We can talk about that more later. I know someone was asking about it in the chat earlier. Now Jesse Butler stepping in. So that I can't pick that fight. I'll go with. I'm afraid I'm going to say a fight that doesn't exist anymore. This card is so strange. You know what? I'm going to go with Jamie Malarkey and the otherwise, unknown Muhammad Naimov. I admit I don't know a lot about Naimov, but Malarkey is just always a good time. I like that. I think it's the featured prelim. I need to find that proper about it. I believe it is the featured prelim. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. This is the kind of thing that's, if you want to lead into that ESPN main card, this is the one. Now I'm seeing Daniel Santos, Johnny Munoz. I don't trust anything anymore. Anyway, the whole schedule is screwed up. But either way, I'll go with Malarkey Naimov stepping on super short notice. One of two Tajikistan fighters. I was actually just listening to Jed talk about the Tajikistan parlay. I can't remember if he went through with it. Muin Gafurov also stepped in.
I sure did.
You sure did. So on that level, it's very intriguing. But also, I expect this one to either end quickly, first round, someone just getting smoked, or early fight of the night can. It's pretty low in the prelims. I wonder if they put on a banger, will it be remembered by the end of the night? Because this card's probably going to be about 6 hours long. But I'm optimistic for both guys. Hopefully they walk out with an extra 50 Gs each.
I will say, in defense of Alex Caceres versus Daniel Pineda, that's probably the most likely to be the most fun non-main event fight on the card, I would say, right? Like both those dudes are a lot of fun. Both of them are pretty wild. Alex Caceres is on a little mini run here, super late in his career, 6-1 over the last 7. Pineda has like 3 no contests over his last 6 fights, which is very bizarre, and you rarely see that. But like, he's always here for a good time too. I don't know. I understand why that's the co-main event. I'll say that. No thoughts on the co-main event. All right, let's keep it going.
I thought you were going to elaborate. I was going to say go on. I was like, go on. I thought you were going to elaborate on why this. I was like, okay. But I mean,
I was trying to get off my mute. I think it's probably the most likely to be fun of the fights like on this card, frankly. So I get it.
Daniel Pineda always finishes, never wins by decision. Completely alien to him winning by decision.
Both dudes are pretty good grapplers, but also gets submitted like a lot. Like it could be a really fun little scrap. And plus Alex, because like it's the right nexus of fun and at least name value, because people know who Bruce Leroy is, whereas the only other person people have heard of on this are Jim Miller and Amir Albazi, because heavyweight champion Amir Albazi.
Which is crazy because Caceres this is his 28th UFC appearance.
Which means he needs to fight for another like 6 years to catch up with Amir Albazi, who's a heavyweight and took like 6 years off the UFC to go do other shit. Give this man his due.
Or Jim Miller, brother, or Jim Miller. But that's crazy that like we're saying like those are the two of them because Alex Teixeira should be a well-known guy. He's main evented fight nights before, and again he's approaching 30 UFC appearances. But I think only I don't think how many fighters have done that. Maybe like 20, if that. Maybe my number's too high. It almost feels like too high. But
nah, 20 feels like it's probably around right.
okay, and he's about to join that club, and yet again, it's just not a. It's rarely a lot of pomp and circumstance around him. But hey, good for him. Penultimate fight, second last fight in the card. Sounds like I think someone's going to get a bonus out of this fight. I do think there's going to be a finish, so
Seems
can't complain.
Likely.
Yeah, can't go wrong there.
Daniel Pineda on that prime Carlos Condit-ish with the 28 wins, 28 finishes. Like, come on. That's sensational. You got to love that. Also, if you combine, I would love someone in the comments, please do this while we talk, because I can't do math on the fly. But how many combined fights do you think Bruce Leroy, Andre Arlovski, and Jim Miller have in the UFC? Because that's got to be like, of the trios on any card ever, that's got to be some of the highest numbers for that.
Yeah. 110, I think, would be the number.
By definition, it has to be the most because Arlovski and Miller are 1 and 2. Yeah. So any other third and like another good third party, nobody, unless they already previously fought together on a card with Donald Cerrone, it's not gonna. Nothing's gonna.
And by the way, I wish I had credit. Someone pointed this out. This is not what I thought of. A new record now. Jim Miller already had the record for the biggest discrepancy in UFC experience between him and his opponent when he fought, I think, Nicholas Mota. Am I crazy? I think Nicholas Mota had no.
Yeah, I mean, he's been running through
Gonzalez.
He's debuting guys for a bit.
Yeah. Now this one, like that was different. Yeah, that was different because like I can't remember Moto Eric Gonzalez, but one of those like that was like booked. That was a standard 3 months booked ahead of time. This is like now he's facing a guy who's coming in on literally 2 days' notice, Jesse Butler. But yes, now we have a new. This is 42 UFC fights to 0 UFC fights. It almost sounds like it shouldn't be. Like a responsible commission shouldn't, allow this. But again, we can talk more about the commission's behavior in a moment regarding Jim Miller's fight week.
They shouldn't, because you know what they should have done instead? We should have pulled Dontel Mays and just had Jim Miller fight Andre Arlovski.
Oh, if only.
Oh, now we're talking.
Talk about like Andre probably wouldn't even really try to hurt him, so it could be fun. Just saying.
I would do a thing where like you accumulate a certain amount of UFC points or like UFC fights, and it goes into like a point system, almost like you're going to a restaurant, right? And so you're like, and then you get to like 20 points, and you get an open weight contest of your choosing.
Yep,
I love this. I love this idea so much. With spec rules, I feel like if you choose to go up, like Jim Miller gets to do an open weight contest against Andre Arlovski, but Arlovski's not allowed to kick, right? Like he just doesn't get. You get to take away some of the weapons from him, and then we just see what happens.
Why aren't we doing this? Come on, let's write up the pitch. We'll send it. We'll send it to
Mick. Unfun championship. That's what the UFC is.
Someone asked, and I don't know if we were going to pull up this question later, but someone asked what happened to Jared Gordon, and this is like so. Obviously, Jared Gordon was the first replacement opponent. This was a long time ago. It was Jim Miller versus Ludovic Klein. Ludovic Klein had to pull out, was replaced by Jared Gordon on short notice, who just fought at the end of April, and I'm sure we remember was knocked flat unconscious by a Bobby Green headbutt, and then there was punches after. It was headbutt and punches, right? It wasn't
nonsense. Oh yeah.
I mean,
he was going to lose anyway, though. He was going to lose anyway.
Sure.
So
I was
really...
going to lose anyway, but it's the clean knockout I want to focus on here. Was called upon on short notice to fight Jim Miller, which seemed like okay. We're like, hopefully he gets cleared. He talks about getting what he described as recovering from. He said he had already recovered from a minor concussion, and this is on Wednesday. And I'm going to say not coincidentally, the commission said like, oh, by the way, after media day, we discovered some things in his medical. Like, yeah, because he said it. Like, how did you guys not see this before? So Jared Gordon's out, Jesse Butler's in. You really have to question what they're doing with the testing or just even common sense. Did they not know he got knocked out 6 weeks ago?
Definitely didn't.
They
definitely were not paying attention.
What do you expect? Someone on the commission to just like Wikipedia Jared Gordon and look at when he last fought? Come on, that's asking way too much, man.
So, dude, like, they got 13 fights to deal with. They can't be in charge of all this. That's too difficult.
They're
Honestly,
putting on bangers after bangers. No bad events.
but
That takes too much work.
haven't had one. Honestly, when this all happened, my first thought was, do you guys remember last year when the Tua nonsense happened in Miami and he clearly got concussed and then they just like
God.
put him back out there? And it was like, oh, good. We may have just seen the worst thing that's happened in professional football. Felt a lot like that. So I'm really glad that some adult was in the room eventually and was like, hey, we should super not do this because it's really, really bad.
All it took was Jared Gordon to snitch on himself.
Being honest, just being honest, answering your question, being honest. If he hadn't said anything, Jared Gordon would be fine. He would have, I guess, passed whatever. I want to know what their test. I guess if it's.
Hey, you good?
I'm at a loss for
All
words.
right,
I'm literally
cool.
That's
the test.
That's the test.
That's bad. It's not good.
Also, just an incredible run of bad luck for Jared Gordon, who's sort of been an unlucky guy for like a lot of his UFC run, but just the last three of the robbery of the year with Patty. And then this Bobby Green thing where that was bad, like especially to suffer like such a bad knockout. And then this getting pulled from him last second, like guy can't catch a break, man. I feel for him.
There's always like a couple of guys who just are cursed for one reason or another. I need to go back and look and see if there's like a clear lineage of when one dude passed the torch and chart that.
Oh.
Because like Ian McCall was the most. Ian McCall owned that belt for like 5 years. You know, Jared Gordon definitely has it right now.
Yeah. Nobody.
Do you think him? You think he has it, or Alex Perez has it? Or Alex Perez has it?
I feel like Jared Gordon, but maybe.
Alex Perez has.
Alex Perez has a lot of gray on his Tapology page.
Yeah, that's not good.
I don't know, but I mean the robbery to Patty and doing a lot of heavy lifting in the curse category because it's not just about it's the whole totality of it. But I'm making a note. I'm going to do that for a feature.
I want to see the curse belt lineage for the lighter weight classes and the heavier weight classes. It could be two because I feel like you got to diversify a little bit.
Okay, we'll work on this. Well, you know what? We'll workshop this later, Shaheen.
I believe
you guys are seeing the process right now.
The magic at work right here.
Producer Casey also wanted us to mention that there are 2 Elite XC vets on this card. I see that in the chat. Of course, the esteemed Mr. Arlovsky. And
let's get Casey in here.
Daniel Pineda.
Come on. Let's get some questions from the peeps.
Are we ready for some questions? All right.
Let's do it.
Questions.
I mean, I guess
that's it. There's like 40 other fights. You don't want to talk about all the fights?
Oh, we got to talk about at least.
What do you want to talk about, Casey? What's your second best fight on the card, Casey?
Probably the co-main event. You know, just because it's the fun fight. You know, the Ultimate Fun Championships. That's what this is. So
Ultimate.
Yeah. Ultimate. Yeah. You know, there's so many fighters on this card. I go, oh, are they new to the UFC? And then I look at their record. It's like, oh, they fought. I watched 4 of their fights. And I just don't remember.
Dude, I forgot that Daniel. I forgot Daniel Pineda has had 2 careers in the UFC. This dude fought Mike Thomas Brown in the UFC. Like he's been around forever.
It's wild.
He fought Mackin Semajir. I haven't thought about that name.
He was the original. He was the original PFL drug test failure guy before it was cool. Before everyone started doing it this year.
Before everyone did it. He set the tone.
He had a 29-second knockout of Movlid Khabulayev, which now is off the record because he tested.
Which is an incredible
best win of his career. Easily the best.
The best win of anybody on the main card's career. The best win of any main card fighter right now.
Guys, that's a no contest.
Easily.
That's a no contest. You can't call to win. What are you doing? Come on. We get sued.
I know.
For this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is easily it would have been the best win of his career.
That's crazy.
And then that's just goes down.
That's crazy.
1 fight away from a milli. 1 fight away from a milli. That's rough. This one's coming
ended up fighting for that million. Now I need to look this up. Please continue.
Mobley won that year. I'm pretty sure Mobley won it. I'm pretty sure.
Could be, but I'll confirm while you continue with whatever's going on.
No, it wasn't him. It wasn't him.
How do you not have the PFL lineage?
That was Lance. Lance Palmer won the 2019.
That's where the Lance Palmer dynasty continued. Because
the dynasty. The dynasty.
All right, this first question's coming from our pal VJ, who says, "Who is the onus on in the Jared Gordon situation?" I'd say the commission. I mean, what do you guys think?
UFC.
The commission is there to stop the UFC from themselves, right?
Yeah, but why would the UFC?
Both
Why would
of
the UFC
those two
even?
parties?
Yeah, I think it's an equal. Well, the commission did their job. I don't understand. The commission did their job. The commission did.
They only they barely did. They just got it in under the wire.
They barely did the job. The UFC did not do their job.
I mean, the UFC could have theoretically also made a last minute change as well. And they are both to blame.
There's a lot going on. You got to book all these cards. What do you
got to book all these amazing cards that everyone is just, they're all great.
Dude, I guarantee you, not because it wouldn't even be Dana who said it. Whoever was talking to him, Hunter or whatever, was just like, "Oh, you good? Yeah, I'm doing great. All right, cool. Well, if you want to do it, sure, let's go." That's how you be an effing fighter.
I mean, I get Jared Gordon is not like an A-list fighter, but like we know Jared Gordon. I mean, there's so many fighters that, like I said, I've seen 4 or 5 times, and I barely remember. I remember Jared Gordon. I remember that situation with Bobby Green. It wasn't like some kind of forgotten fight. This was. I don't understand how the UFC did this. Honestly, I get the commission.
They just thought he was fine. Okay, he's fine. He said he's fine. What am I going to call him a liar? He says he's okay. Let's do it.
Apologies.
The commission is supposed to be the adult in the room.
I like operating a promotion under the, what am I going to call him a liar?
Call him a liar?
That's a real good philosophy for
I'm adopting that more in life. Just like, no, it's what he says. It's fine. Go with it.
Didn't you just have a bit about that on No Bets Barred? Something
I did.
Who was it?
I've started it. Tim Elliott.
Tim Elliott's like, I'm going to get a finish. And
what
you're
am I going to do? Call him a liar?
I'm going to call Tim Elliott a liar.
What do we know about Jim Miller's new opponent? Do we know anything other than his name?
Moving up in weight. Natural featherweight. Fights at featherweight.
He's on a decent run of victories. His name is Jesse.
He had a really nice knockout of UFC and Ultimate Fighter veteran Masio Fullen February last year. You can find that clip out there. That's probably where most people might have heard of him before. Really nice, first round KO, 90 seconds. He's a finisher. People will like that. Again, he'll be a bit undersized. Obviously, quite a bit.
What a name!
Actually, not that much younger.
I'm looking at his Tapology, and the referee for his most recent fight against Luis Luna is named Birchie Stillwagoner.
No.
And that is a name. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a name. Kudos to your parents, sir. Birchie, Birchie, Stillwagoner. I love that name. The name rules.
I'll say
there
this.
are so many levels to that, and
it's so good.
The one person who I'm not putting responsibility on is Jared Gordon. If you're him, listen. I also saw something. I think this was going to be his first fight on a new contract, right? This is part of him getting a new contract. I don't know if anyone saw that.
Jared Gordon has been screwed out of 2 different paychecks over the last 2 fights. He is just trying to get some money at this point.
And who knows if the UFC paid him for this fight at all? So really,
no way,
another paycheck because he's not even gonna get a show money. That means he went through camp. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he has a day job or what too. I don't know how much he makes, but it's a big commitment. And I'm sure I know his weight cut wasn't complete, but I'm sure he went through like 2 weeks of misery to even bring that weight down for no good reason. So sucks to be him right now. But Jesse Butler though. So
let's say you raise actually a good point. I'll also throw some blame on Jared Gordon's coaches. Is again, somebody should be like, hey, you should not do this. And clearly no one did.
It's so weird because say if the refs didn't overturn that fight with the with the headbutt thing, and it was an L on his record, this fight would never been booked. Like it's just a weird thing, which happens all the time.
And also, how was he not like suspended? Like, how did he not get a commission suspension?
Well, the thing is, you got to remember when they're doing, you guys have seen, we write up when we can get them the medical suspensions. It's never for concussions. They don't suspend fighters medically. It's for broken bones, knee injuries, cuts. Very noticeable cuts.
They usually make you sit if you got knocked out.
When you get knocked out or go unconscious, usually there's a mandatory suspension that goes along with that. But also,
I was saying because
none of that is actually.
I feel like that's why. Yeah.
None of that is actually hard and fast though. Like those are just recommendations, more or less. And then like you can circumvent that really easily if you just go to a doctor and be like, "Hey, I'm good, right?" Yeah, you're good. Okay, we're good.
So
What are you gonna call me a liar?
What are you gonna call me a liar?
That's the best fight doctor ever.
Like
I'm not gonna call the fighter a liar. I mean, I'm not that guy.
It feels like
Yeah,
it feels like a knockout, and I'm sure. Listen, I'm not a neurologist. I'm sure there's different degrees of brain damage, of concussions. Well, newsflash. Where's the breaking news? Where's the breaking news sound? I'm not a neurologist. I wish that if you got knocked out, that's like automatic 6 months. Like I wish that's the way it was. Probably longer. Honestly,
it should be at least. If a human being 3 or 4
knocks another human, I always say this. I always say like not even fights that end in knockout, but like vicious like 3-round battles. Like I think Gaethje Chandler, guys just murdering each other. That's essentially like being in a car accident, right? That's probably about as damaging as being in a car accident, if not more.
Absolutely is. Yes.
And then as long as you
it's got to be way worse.
But then
average car accident.
We say, like a lot of these guys, we're telling them, hey, 4 months later, 5 months later, sometimes 3 months later, do you want to get into a car accident again? Like that's crazy. Like that's I know we've come to accept this, but I'm speaking specifically to fights of where there's knockouts and just so much obvious concussive damage to the head. How can we be asking these guys to step back in so quickly? And in Gordon's case, 6 weeks after his last fight, it just makes zero sense. So a lot of people take responsibility, just not Jared Gordon. That's all I'll say.
But it's fights like this where you get sometimes you get crazy knockouts. In the sense that I think of the Hernandez kid when he knocked out Benil. I think Hernandez was like a last week replacement.
Sure, this is Jesse Butler's moment. Listen, this is Jesse Butler's moment. All right, good for him. Good for him for being able to. He's a featherweight, so it wasn't that crazy to make 155. This is his moment. Imagine if he beats Jim Miller, first UFC fight. Like that would just be insane.
Well, I mean, I think who was? So there's I can't think of names, but there's been a few fighters like that. They come in a week notice, wind up being a giant upset, and then we go, oh man, this guy's the next big thing. It just turns out
Ronda Venata almost. He's been nearly beating Tony Ferguson for like 4 years. He didn't even beat him. Just almost beat him, and we still talk about it. We still talk about it to this day. I think he has it. It's crazy.
All right.
AK, I'm gonna just really quickly derail because you mentioned Justin Gaethje in there, and I'm just gonna use this as a side road to be able to say something.
If you must.
Last night I stumbled upon maybe the most incredible thing I've ever stumbled upon. And an explanation of why the Gaethje Poirier rematch is the most perfect fight in the history of mixed martial arts. Just symmetry wise, those dudes fought in 2018, right? Here's what they've done both since 2018. Dustin Poirier, 6-2 since 2018, that fight with Justin Gaethje. He has 4 finishes, 2 decisions. He has a win over Michael Chandler. He has only losses in title bouts to Charles Oliveira and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Justin Gaethje, since 2018 fight against Dustin Poirier, 6-2, 4 finishes, 2 decisions, win over Michael Chandler, only losses, title bouts, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Charles Oliveira. They're the same person, AK. They're the exact same person. You could go even deeper. They both won interim titles since that first fight. They both won interim titles over fighters with 10-plus win streaks and angel wing tattoos on their backs. They both knocked down Charles Oliveira in their title fight and then got subbed out with a rear naked choke. They are the exact same fighter, and it is ridiculous. It's blowing my mind. There's so many levels to it. I love it. Absolutely.
I saw that. I saw you having this discussion on social media the other day, and the 10 fight win streak thing really blew my mind for some reason because I don't know why. I couldn't remember.
The angel wings blew my mind thing. That one.
That's just freaky. That's just freaky. That's just freaky. But yeah, I forgot that Holloway obviously was on a 10 fight win streak at featherweight, but yeah, was on a 10 fight win streak and also lost to Poirier. So that's wild.
We are clearly all living in a simulation.
Lightweight's not a bad division.
What else do we got going on?
Lightweight's not a bad division. I don't know if you guys don't talk about it enough. It's a good division.
Last thing on
that's a hot take.
The Jesse Butler Miller fight, because I think this is interesting too for fans that don't understand.
Oh,
is Jesse? Brandon says, is Jesse in the USADA pool? Does the UFC has prospects they call up in the USADA, or they plan to call up in the USADA pool? No, I mean this is the exception, right? This is just
it's in there.
We're just going to grant you the exception.
He could pop for something. He could pop super hot in a couple of weeks, and you would not be surprised at all because no, he is obviously taking it 2 days. There's no way they can give him a comprehensive, proper USADA testing. So
they basically just allow any debutante to not be in it. That's fine.
Walk right in.
Drug testing's a joke and nonsense anyway. So whatever.
Gaffarov, one of the other guys, Muin Gaffarov is on 8 days notice. I doubt he's fully tested.
Because I'm not 100. I think I know the answer, but explain the difference between the McGregor situation and the Jesse Butler situation, as far as USADA and testing.
Well, Conor McGregor isn't a UFC rookie, and they're not tabbing him to come in on 2 days' notice. So that's
is that the difference?
There is functionally there's not a difference, but practically there is.
So it's basically you saw if you're under contract, then you don't have to have their requirement thing or whatever. Because I know that's
if you are new to the promotion, there are exceptions granted to you. But if you were just in the promotion and you just decided to pull yourself out of the USADA pool conveniently and take a long break, they're not going to give you that.
I mean, they can.
Or the UFC.
No,
I mean,
the
they
UFC.
Might. Yeah, they might.
UFC gets to dictate. They can do whatever the hell they want. They pay USADA. USADA has no influence or determining factor over UFC. They pay their bills. So, like, what are they going to do? No, it goes against our principles to let Conor fight next week. Suck it. If you want $100 million a year, you're going to shut the hell up and clear this dude. Like, they don't give a shit.
Now, USADA is not a quote-unquote governing body like the commission is, right?
No, they're a company.
They're just a company. They're literally just a company.
It's a drug test company that the UFC treats as gospel, except for, that one time that they really needed Brock to headline 200. And they're like, well, don't care about these principles we have.
Yeah. I think Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, we're hitting an hour here. Let's hit maybe one or two more and we'll get out of here.
No problem. Did we mention this? Sorry. Let's go back to the main event.
Joseph Boza, could a flyweight title shot be on the line in the main event? Yeah, I mean, we hit that pretty extensively. I think for Albazi, possibly. For KKF, probably not.
When is the pay-per-view in Australia? When is that?
September is the target, I think.
September.
I want to say that's September is the target for that one.
And Moreno and Pantoja are fighting.
It is September 10th. Moreno and Pantoja are fighting International Fight Week, right?
Early July.
290, July.
So I'm just
if Pantoja wins, then I could see it. I don't think they're running back Moreno KKF, even unless KKF literally uppercuts Albazi out of the cage, Francis Ngannou, Alistair Overeem style. I don't think he's getting a title fight against Moreno. Different story if he does really well and, Ali Pants gets it done.
Yeah. All right. And see, I got 8 more questions. Here we go. Last question.
Again, this one's coming from Joseph. How is Ketlin Souza as a fighter? She's debuting Saturday versus Karine Silva.
Pretty mid. Pretty mid. Yeah, she's a fighter. She is the almost textbook definition, as far as I'm concerned, of like mid-level women's flyweight. She can kind of do some stuff, but she's not like super athletic. She's not like super dangerous. I was stunned to see that she has a Wikipedia page because
Invicta champ.
I guess that's true, but
she was a champ.
I don't know.
Invicta? Really?
She was.
She just won it. She just won it like a few months ago. Yeah.
Just won it.
Okay.
But yeah, she can kind of do some stuff. I think she's probably going to lose to Silva, who's just a more dynamic, powerful, dangerous fighter. But she's also kind of young too. I think she's only like 25, something like that. So she can grow. She's 27. Okay, she still has room to kind of develop and grow, but she's nothing to write home about.
Yeah, Karine Silva's kind of the A side here. I think people kind of view her as more of the sort of higher upside, somewhat more. I would say more exciting, I guess, more compelling. She's like Pineda. She just finishes all of her fights, which that's again some of the lighter weight classes, some of the lighter women's weight classes. Listen, it's not that common. It's not that common. You find someone who's putting away someone with the frequency that Karine Silva does. But I don't think Silva. I'm not counting her out at all. Like it sounds like we're kind of like counting her out because I do think winning the Invicta championship means something. It was over against another somewhat kind of middle of the road talent in Christina Williams, but it did mean something. 5 rounds. She went 5 good rounds. But I personally am obviously thinking this is going to be more of a showcase for Karina Silva, which is why I imagine this fight was put together. But hey, Ketlin, prove us wrong. Have us eating our words on the post-fight show.
And last question. I know the answer to this because Jed talked about it a lot on BTL, but I think it needs to be brought up again.
Oh, I was about to bring this up, so I'm glad you came to. Seattle Ryan, closing us out here. What is the best bet to make tomorrow? I mean, first of all, Seattle Ryan, go listen to No Best Bard. It's a pretty great program on a pretty great podcast.
Great podcast.
But just a little sneak peek. Jed, what's your number one bet this week?
Oh, my number one bet this week. Just because we haven't talked about it at all, we're going to go with I'm taking Tim Elliott inside the distance at like plus 400. Because Tim
what are you going to call the man a liar?
And what am I going to call the man a liar? Exactly. Like, and plus you got to think about it too, right? Like my exact argument on No Best Bard was 2 weeks ago, we saw Mackenzie Dern come out and beat the brakes out of Angela Hill. Angela Hill's just real tough. But afterwards, she was like, yeah, my personal life was kind of shit and in turmoil, and it took that out on Angela Hill. What am I going to call Tim Elliott a liar? We saying that his personal life isn't doing too hot right now either. Pretty tough couple of like 18 months for him. So I think Victor Altamirano's in trouble tomorrow. And I think he's going to get a finish.
He called the finish, right?
I don't know if he called the finish, but he said that he was going to do some like quote unquote crazy shit. I think he's going to get real wild in there. And so it should be fun as hell. And it's probably not the best bet, but it's going to be a fun bet. And you got to support Tim Elliott, you know, given his rough ride
Any overs anyone should bet on?
Oh, yeah. Heavyweight over.
Arlovsky, Mays.
Arlovsky, Dontel Mays. Kai Kara France, Amir Albazi under 2.5. Or actually 3.5's the line on it. So.
Oh, it's 3.5 now? Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's 3.5.
There you go. There's your NBB preview.
Boom.
Now go with the rest of the podcast. Or Jed's coming to your house. Anyway, that's the UFC Vegas 74 preview show. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with us here on this wonderful Friday morning. Again, Doc Rivers is not the coach of the Phoenix Suns. All is right in the world. It is just a beautiful, beautiful day.
Ooh, as we outro, is Miami going to win a game? Because they got rinsed yesterday.
Game three.
Nugs in 5. The dominance of
the notorious Miami home game.
There'll be one game where they hit an inordinate amount of 3-pointers, and then they'll win that way. That's about it.
I feel infinitely better about stealing 2 from this Denver team now than I did like a month ago because they're clearly
dude. So somebody should just straight up Tanya Harding Jokic. Like,
okay,
what are you gonna do now?
All right.
I think every time.
Shut it down.
You're not able to amount enough power to do anything to that man. Have you seen how gigantic he is? He is so sneaky huge, and his brothers are terrifying. You do something,
I love him
brothers
so
are
much.
capturing you and taking you to Serbia.
Jokic looks like a dude who says that he could have gone pro if he hadn't hurt his knee in high school, except for he's actually the best player in the world. It's incredible.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, this is UFC Vegas 74 preview show. Enjoy the fights, everyone. We love ya.
Love y'all.